What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk about OTAs, kind of what happened in OTAs, gathered all the information I could from the past few days. It was a 3-day OTA, then we have mini camps coming up, and then nothing until training camp. So, what we have now, the things that we're looking at coming out of OTAs and kind of the way things were, of course, starting with our guy, the quarterback, AR. He looked normal throwing from everything I've gathered. He looked just fine throwing, looked like himself. He was able to launch the ball 60 plus yards. Like from a throwing aspect, he's himself again. And then when you look at what he was doing in 11 on 11 work, what he did in 7 on 7 work, and 11 on 11s, it was pretty bland. He went 4 for 6, completed a downfield throw to Kylan Granson by the sideline. There were a lot of people talking about that one. I guess was a really nice catch by Kylan Granson, is my understanding of the situation. And then when you look at 7 on 7, AR did fine, had some more downfield work there. And Daniel Scott got his interception in practice in that 7 on 7 on the other underthrown ball. So, with AR coming back, it wasn't perfect for him. He definitely had some mistakes. The accuracy wasn't great throughout OTAs. But coming back, you would assume something he continues to work on, right? He just relearned how to throw the way he could. So coming back, he's got to figure out those accuracy issues. We saw him work on that last season, even from game 1 to game 4. Like there was some improvement in the short to intermediate area in terms of his accuracy. So as he works his way back from this, I expect him to continue to work on that and to be fine. Now, something else about AR is that even though he already came into the league, he was already strong, really strong for a quarterback. He looks crazy right now. We've talked about him having to grow into his more manly body. Like between 21 and 22, he's definitely done that. You look at AR last year and then look at him this year, the muscle definition, the growth from him. Like he is jacked right now. Okay, so defense is going to have a problem trying to bring him down, trying to bring JT down. The duo there is going to be incredible. Okay, but then as we move on, one last note here about AR is him talking about his shoulder. Said that he wakes up some days and he feels like his old self, and then he wakes up some days and his shoulder feels a little achy. And I don't think that's anything too out of the ordinary. Had shoulder surgery recently, still coming back from the rehab. He's ahead of the timetable on his rehab, so it's not really any surprise that there's still some achiness there. You expect that to be the way that's going to be. Hopefully, he takes some time to not completely not throwing for the entire month between minicamp and training camp, but take some time and let that shoulder get better, right? Take some days where you're definitely doing some throwing work, but then definitely take some days off. Need that shoulder to be okay throughout the season. Okay, but now moving on to somebody else on the offense, Michael Pittman Jr., something we didn't really talk about because I didn't think we need to, and I still don't think we need to, but just to mention that Pitt banged his knee on a play in practice, got held out of the rest of the practice, and he should be fine. Coach Steichen said that he should be just fine. There's no major injury there. So going forward, right, you expect him to be able to take some time. It's only May right now, almost the beginning of June. The season doesn't start until September 8th. So there's plenty of time for Pitt to rest up. Training camp right around the corner. I'm sure they'll, ease him into training camp just to make sure he's okay. But Pitt did bang his knee, but should be fine. Then some other guys to talk about, looking at the defense, looking at Juju and Jalen Jones are the guys taking the first team reps at cornerback. Flowers was rotating in. So we'll see if that ends up changing with training camp. And, training camp is a long process. A lot of things can happen. But right now we're looking at Juju and Jalen taking those first team reps. Probably seems like the smart thing to do, kind of ease Flowers back into, right? You let the young guys take it, and then Flowers can be a rotational piece at the beginning of the season, and you just have him and have depth at that position, which could be why again they haven't added to that position throughout this offseason. They like the guys they have. Maybe they're fine rotating those three and then having Kenny Moore obviously be able to play the slot, but if they need to, he can play the outside positions if absolutely necessary. Gave them more defense here. Obviously, you have the Daniel Scott interception and Shane Steichen. It seems like Shane Steichen, really likes Daniel Scott, right? And everything that he brings, the communication on the back end. He said, quote, I think he's going to have a hell of a future. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, right? Julian Blackman and Nick Cross are taking the first team reps right now. But will Daniel Scott work his way to a starting lineup? Is Daniel Scott and Nick Cross's potential, are those reasons why they have not decided to go out and get a safety this offseason? They want to roll with the guys that they're drafting, right? And if we see that Daniel Scott is making a whole bunch of plays in training camp when that comes around, then I could see a situation where, right now, Daniel Scott is projected as the backup strong safety. Well, what if they move him to free safety? Can he work like that? I assume he continues to make plays at the backup strong safety position, that they're going to try him at that other safety position, and try to see who's going to be the guy that helps us out the most and helps us win games from that free safety position. We'll see what happens there. But I think that's going to be a camp battle coming up, is Nick Cross versus Daniel Scott. That could be the reason that we haven't seen Quandre Diggs or Justin Simmons be signed to the Colts. Okay, now somebody else on the defense that intrigues me, somebody we had a couple of videos on, is Jalen Carlies. Former safety, right? Played in the secondary, moving to linebacker, filling that Darius Leonard role, right? And right now, filling that role for the starters is Ronnie Harrison. But then Jalen Carlies is like the guy that should take over in that same role in this defense. And Carlies is younger, he's more athletic, right? Played in the secondary, so what he can do, he's a big dude. He hits hard, right? This is a in the box safety that can move well. So playing him at that linebacker position, and being able to lurk on linebackers and being able to play guys coming out of the slot and crossing through the middle, right? He had an interception, and coach has good things to say about him. He likes what he sees so far from Carlies. So Carlies could be a guy that, again, if he's making plays in training camp, we could see him take on a starting role. Now, the Colts typically play nickel defense, so the third linebacker isn't always on the field, but to have him there in certain situations is going to be useful. I think him and Ronnie Harrison could be two guys that really help the defense be able to elevate playing that specific role. So, again, Jalen Carlies, watch that name throughout training camp. Definitely going to be watching that. Latu, just a quick note, Latu is not rolling with the starters right now. It's still Kwity Paye, Samson Ebicom. We'll see if that changes through training camp. There are a lot of position battles going to be happening in training camp. The Colts continue to get deeper, right? Keep building their talent. It's about time for that talent to start to show off. I think they started doing that last year, went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew. Talent still needs to show through, but a lot on the defense, right? Corners, defensive end, wide receivers. There's going to be a competition on. So a lot going on for the Colts, and we're going to have a close eye on that throughout minicamp and training camp. The rest of this offseason is going to be very interesting for the Colts. Okay, but then you look at the players that were in, the players that were out, right? Players coming back for the Colts, players that did not participate in OTAs are Ashton Doolin, Braden Smith, Liam Anderson, and Chris Lamons. Players returning: Anthony Richardson, Evan Hull, Daniel Scott, Jelani Woods, Dallas Flowers, and Julian Blackman. So Jelani Woods making plays. Coach Steichen said that it was nice to be able to see him and what he can do, the way he can move, the ways they might be able to utilize him. He mentioned how last year, with him being injured during training camp, he didn't really get much of a time frame to be able to get to see Jelani Woods. And now he's seen the rest of this team last year. He's able to focus on these guys that he didn't get a chance to focus on last year. So being able to see Jelani Woods, he likes what he sees. Of course, this is somebody that's 6'7", is a freak athlete, right? And is going to be able to help this team as a pass catcher and be a vertical threat. So Shane Steichen, already seeing what can he draw up for Jelani Woods, and I can't wait to see it, man. I think Jelani Woods is going to be big for us this year. I think Evan Hull coming back could be a big deal for us. You look at who the punt return reps were going to. Obviously, Josh Downs staying in that role. Anthony Gold, as expected, those are the two guys that are going to be competing for that, and probably going to end up being Gold, just so we don't have to use Josh Downs any more than we really need to. No more wear and tear on somebody that could be a star for us. Okay, and then the last information here about joint practices, some information that came out for joint practices. So if you're in Indy and you want to go to the joint practice, and I didn't see which of these were at home, which was on the road, so I apologize for that. But the Cardinals for 2 days, and that's the one that I believe is in Indy. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost certain the one with the Cardinals is in Indy. If that's the case, if you're a Colts fan, I could understand you wanting to go see that, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. probably not going to play in the preseason game if I had to guess. So go see him in practice would be my guess, right? Again, I wish I could add, and you know what? Let me just take the time for a second to go figure out what is what here. Okay, so like I thought, it is the Cardinals going to be in Indy. If you want to see Marvin Harrison Jr. and you're able to go to one of those practices, go get the tickets for that. I believe those are up now. So could be very fun. I wish I was able to make it for that up in Indy. That's going to be incredible to see again. Probably not going to play in the preseason game. You have to expect Harrison probably not going to be there for the preseason game. So go see him in practice. Got 2 days of joint practice with the Cardinals, and then they go to Cincy for the preseason finale. They're going to have one joint practice with Cincinnati. So that's what's going on. For the Colts, that's OTAs. The joint practices coming up. A little information there. So hopefully you guys are able to make it to those events. Hopefully you guys can make it to some training camp events. If you do, let me know as much as you possibly can. If you're able to make it to any of these practices, I want to know as much as possible so we can let everybody know, right? Let all of Colts Nation know what's happening with the team. So make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you get notified anytime any more videos come out. If there's any particular thing about the Colts that you'd like to hear about, let me know down in the comment section. And of course, I appreciate you stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.